What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Bryce Gelman here. Today, going to be discussing the New York Knicks. Something that I think is such a positive in my life, and it is about to be in your lives as well. In what has been such a bad week for me and millions of other Giants fans out there because of the incompetence, because of the pathetic performance, because of the fact that the Giants happen to be the first team in NFL history to lose a game in which they scored 3 more touchdowns than the opposing team. That is why we're talking Knicks today. If you want to hear what I have to say about the New York Giants, watch One Giant Step, listen to One Giant Step with Sean Morash and myself. We did that Sunday night, released it Sunday night. We do reaction podcasts to every game, no matter win or loss. It's going to be loss every time. But no matter wins or losses, we sit down and we digest what happened to the Giants. And I did it already. I made a TikTok yesterday and put it on YouTube Shorts or Reels, whatever the hell they call it, on Brian Dable, and just how frustrated I am with that and his comments after the game. I know I promised Knicks talk, but it's just so frustrating, and it's hard to focus on really anything positive as a sports fan right now. But we have some positive news. If you are a Knicks fan, and that is, and I assume if you're here, then you're probably a Knicks fan. And if you reside anywhere near me, you're probably a Knicks fan as well, because no one gives a you-know-what about the Brooklyn Nets. So today, Tom Thibodeau spoke. And I wanted to just address a few of the things he said and discuss my thoughts on each thing and how that will play into the outlook of this team going forward, being, in my opinion, the second best team in the Eastern Conference with a high likelihood. I really think there's a high likelihood that the Knicks are able to take down the Boston Celtics in the playoffs. But that all stems and that all hangs in the balance and on the shoulders of one guy on the Knicks, and that is Julius Randle. It's someone that Tom Thibodeau spoke extensively about in this press conference. The idea of Julius Randle playing big minutes at the center position, something we have not seen in Julius Randle's tenure as a New York Knick. Tom Thibodeau has, for whatever reason, strayed away from it. I mean, we understand the depth that they had at the center position, the depth that they've had in the past with Hartenstein and with Mitchell Robinson as well. Mitch is not 100%. There's no guarantee that he's even going to be healthy at the start of this season. Probably not. Precious Achiuwa is your backup big. Precious held his own as the replacement to Isaiah Hartenstein, who replaced Mitchell Robinson last year, and did an extremely solid job. I have nothing but praise for what Precious Achiuwa contributed to the Knicks organization last year. And I have some trust in him. I have some trust. When you look at how good the other teams are in the Eastern Conference, it begs the question of what else are the Knicks going to do with the backup center position. And I do think they will make a move, but now is not the time to discuss that. Now is not the time that they will do that. Now is the time to talk about something that I think is very enticing. And that's the idea of Julius Randle at the 5 for the Knicks. And this is what Tom Thibodeau said in his comments today. We could see Julius more at the 5. I don't want to do that for long stretches. It would take its toll. But to have him do it for 10 or 15 minutes, I think he could do it well. He also would create a lot of offensive advantages. End quote. Okay, let's unpack that. Because to many Knicks fans out there, and I know there may be some of you out there who don't necessarily follow the team as much as I do, or as much as a lot of the other guys in terms of Knicks content creators do. But something, and I mentioned this a few minutes ago, that Tom Thibodeau has been extremely reluctant to do is play Julius Randle at the 5. And I don't necessarily know if it's because of the fact that the Knicks had options at the center position when they were healthy. Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein. Of course, they lost Hartenstein, and now they have to consider this. I think before maybe they wouldn't have. But there is something about this team that has changed over the course of the past few months, and that is the acquisition of Mikal Bridges. And what that gives you now is the ability to have as much versatility as you could possibly have on the defensive end. Tom Thibodeau spoke about this as well in his press conference, about the idea of being able to put different guys and have some of the league's best players see multiple different defenders over the course of a quarter, over the course of a game, in being OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and then the more physical Josh Hart. And I think that what this provides you is a leg up on your competition, which is extremely important when you look at the outlook of the Eastern Conference. Every team at the top does something the best. Specifically, Boston has the best offensive wings. The Knicks have the best defensive wings. The Sixers have Joel Embiid, and perhaps the most star power and the most top-heavy team. But what the Knicks can do defensively is switch any one of their top defenders. I mean, even Dante DiVincenzo can come in and do a really solid job on one of your best players. The one area that they are most susceptible is in the paint. Mitchell Robinson's not going to be able to play 35, 40 minutes a game. You're not going to have the paint protector, the absolute menace down low defensively in Mitchell Robinson all the time, and we know his injury history. You get Julius Randle at the 5. Offensively, it opens up everything. You could run a 5 out. You could get into the paint extremely easily. The spacing will be unbelievable. Julius Randle will be able to feast on the inside. Playing bully ball against one of your, listen, it doesn't matter who it is. The switchability, the pick and rolls between Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson, if you remember, were honestly, it was it was probably the best aspect of the Knicks offense before Julius Randle got hurt. They were just improving game by game by game. And I think we're going to see more of that when Julius Randle returns and he is healthy. So in that hypothetical lineup of Julius Randle at the 5, you're going to get that spacing. You're also going to get the pick and roll between Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle. And with that said spacing, there will be a lot of open 3 opportunities. And guess who 2 of the best 3-point shooters from the corners are in the NBA? OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. They're going to be able to feast offensively if this lineup works out. In the 10 to 15 minutes a game, as Tom Thibodeau said, the Knicks will have their way offensively. Now, on the defensive end, they become susceptible to some of the best bigs in the league absolutely feasting on them in the paint. You have the versatility. You have the ability to double any one of these guys in the post. The double can come from the baseline. It can come from the perimeter. It will probably be on the catch. When you're looking at the NBA, the greatest centers in the NBA, you look at Jokic, you look at Embiid. Both those guys have the ability to step out and hit a 3, but where do they do most of their damage? It's on the inside. It's within the 3-point arc. Julius Randle at the 5 is going to present a major problem defensively for the Knicks. As physical as Julius is, he's only 6'9". What is Embiid, 7'1"? Jokic, 300 pounds. Can bully most of the players in the league. It's certainly something that could pose a major problem for the Knicks. And if you're just joining now, if you're one of the 3 people on this live, this algorithm makes no sense. Makes no sense. I'm Bryce Gelman, talking the Knicks, talking Tom Thibodeau's comments on Julius Randle at the 5 and some other stuff that he said. Particularly on the defensive side, and just highlighting the ability of Mikal Bridges and what he is going to bring and provide the Knicks defense. Again, we keep talking about it here. Switchability. It's something that will be the calling card of this Knicks team this year. And I think it is what sets them apart from the rest of the Eastern Conference. No matter who you have, I don't care if you've got Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum on your team. You are going to be presented with problems when the Knicks deploy who they have on defense in 2 of the top 5 realistically best wing defenders in the NBA, in OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. And then at the end of the game, they can close with the Julius at the 5 lineup and offensively get whatever they want and open up the entire paint for Jalen Brunson to do his work. There are a lot of positives to this. All those positives that were highlighted today by Knicks coach Tom Thibodeau. I'm excited. I really am. It's a frustrating time in my sports fandom, as you can imagine. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who can relate to me and watching the dumpster fire that is the New York Giants on now a week-to-week basis. You had hope going into the season, and I'm done with the Knicks. The Knicks, I'm going to get into this. I don't really care. I'm just going to go on a 10 or so minute rant on the Giants right now. The Knicks, listen, there's going to be a lot more content from me about the Knicks coming up. So stay tuned for all of that. I saw Tom Thibodeau spoke today. Wanted to get some comments out on that. It's an exciting time to be a Knicks fan. It is not an exciting time to be a fan of the New York Football Giants, one of the worst teams that we have seen in this stretch of Giants football. And that is saying a lot considering who they have on offense and defense. And again, I apologize if you're just tuning in now and you see the title about Tom Thibodeau's comments and Julius Randle at the 5. We're talking Giants. The organizational disaster that took place on Sunday is unforgivable. Not having a kicker when it is very easy to call up someone from the practice squad and put them on your active roster. Get me sweating. It's unbelievable. It truly is. Being a fan of this organization, the Giants. Now talking about it and covering it as much as I do with One Giant Step with Sean Morash. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts. Watch it on the WFN YouTube. It's very good content. We put out some great stuff. Sean is the best when it comes to dissecting the Giants. And I think I play a good role as the younger Giants fan. I bring the younger mentality. I'm just as annoyed as he is because now my entire adult life, my entire post-childhood life has been riddled with incompetence and, quite frankly, disaster after disaster after disaster. It is unacceptable. As a Giants fan, I would find it extremely hard-pressed to continue spending my money on this team, on this organization. I have not been to a Giants game in a long time. Because they haven't been good in a long time. And you can't tell me I don't support my team. I support my team. I watch every single game. I work on Sundays, NBA Insiders, on SiriusXM NBA Radio. Now that cuts into my Giants watching time because guess what? The Giants always play at 1 o'clock on Sunday because they suck. They haven't deserved America's Game of the Week at 4:25. They haven't deserved many primetime games, even though they have 3 of them this year. A Thursday night football game, a Sunday night football game, and a Monday night football game. And guess what? The people of Germany have to sit through the 2 worst teams in the NFL in the Germany game. I mean, that is hilarious. I don't know how many people are going to be watching that game. I'd be surprised if listen, it's very rare that you get a game in Germany, so there will be people there. But to have that be the intro to football for a lot of fans, potential fans in Germany, I'm sure Roger Goodell is extremely, extremely upset about that and scared with what that's going to do. I just cannot, for the life of me, understand the attitude of Brian Daboll. It is so frustrating to watch him go up there at the podium after the game on Sunday, again, I mentioned at the start, the Giants lost the first game in NFL history where they scored 3 touchdowns and the opponent scored none. Or 3 or more touchdowns, whatever it is. Both were first. Doesn't matter. And he stood up there and essentially deflected all the blame. When he got asked a question, follow-up question to his original response about why he didn't call up a kicker, we trusted Gano. His groin was fine. He said he was okay. We trusted him at his word. Okay, fine. And then there was a follow-up question where one of the reporters asked, well, don't you think that if someone had a groin injury when they were running down the field that they could potentially be favoring that groin and hurt something else? What was Brian Daboll's response to that? You want to know what? He said, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. That was his response. Not, yeah, that makes sense. That could have happened. And that's on me. No responsibility taken whatsoever. No accountability from this organization. It makes it that much worse because you could look at the 2 first losses and say that's a fluke. Okay, the Vikings, we might have underestimated them. They went out, they beat the 49ers this past week. They looked really good. Sam Darnold, when you magically take him out of Carolina, looks like a much better quarterback. Okay, fine. But then you go to wherever FedEx, whatever they call the field now, I completely forgot. Landover, Maryland is where they play. The Commanders. A team in which Daniel Jones is 5-1-1 going into that game. By far the best team he's played against, and the play in terms of how he's played against them in his career. He thrives against the Commanders. You go in to Landover, Maryland. You don't allow a single touchdown, and you score 3, and you lose the game. And then your head coach after the game has the audacity to stand at the podium and say, I'm not a doctor. That is his response. Again, not, oh, I take full responsibility. That's on me as the head coach. We should have thought that over more. We should have maybe called up our backup kicker on our practice squad. Being one of the only teams in the NFL to actually employ a kicker on the practice squad. And they didn't even use him. It makes it so much worse in my eyes to have the head coach up there and play the I'm smarter than you game. It's so great when you are a head coach, when you are a player, and you are winning in New York. And it can be so bad. It can be the bottom of the barrel in terms of experiences in your life when you lose. This is going to get a lot worse before it gets good. If this attitude from Brian Daboll and the Giants organization keeps up. Objectively, it will. It's not like the Giants have an easy schedule. On One Giant Step, repeatedly, Sean and myself have reiterated how important it was to win the first 2 games because of the schedule after that. The Browns, fine. Okay, they don't look like many people expect them to look. Deshaun Watson lost the ability to play quarterback in the NFL. That's a winnable game now. Even though the Giants are I believe, being given, I think, like 6.5 points. I think they're 6.5 point underdogs. I got to check that. That line may move. But as of yesterday, they were 6.5 point underdogs against the Browns. Okay, that's a winnable game, fine. But then you still got to play the Eagles twice. You still got to play the Cowboys twice, and they don't beat these teams when they're actually trying in the middle of the season. That is why it was so important to start the season off well at 2-0, at least at 1-1. I mean, they got embarrassed in week 1, and that was their response. The run defense was non-existent. Daniel Jones actually played a pretty good game. He threw his first passing touchdown in over 360 days. And you still lost the game. The defense did not look good. It really didn't. Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns continue to pitch shutouts. And in a bad way. In terms of stats. Zilch. Nothing. 0 sacks between the two of them. And I do believe they got screwed because in the fourth quarter, the Drew Phillips holding call, that the phantom hold, the hold that wasn't there, would have been, I believe, Kayvon might have gotten to him first, but they probably would have given a half sack to both of them, and that would have been their first sack of the year. Brian Burns, the guy that you traded for, the guy that you gave draft capital up for, and the guy that you spent nearly every single cent and dime that could have went to Saquon, could have went to Xavier McKinney, has been a non-factor, has been a 0. Both of them, Kayvon and Brian Burns, have been even worse at stopping the run. And how many times did Jaden Daniels roll out of the pocket and miraculously get a first down? And I'm not taking anything away from his talent as a scrambler, as a runner in the NFL. That's why he's so valuable in fantasy, because of his legs. The Giants did not do a good enough job stopping him, preventing against them going 7 of 14, and which is not amazing, but all of those, nearly all of them, those third down conversions came outside of the red zone. In the red zone, the Giants played extremely well. Again, you are going up against the Commanders. That should be expected, where you are getting stops. They went 6 for 6 in red zone defense in preventing touchdowns. That is the one positive. And also Drew Phillips is a beast and made play after play after play. Malik Neighbors looks like a stud. He dropped the ball at the end of the game that probably would have won them the game. But there were a lot of things that went wrong in this game were the reason why they lost. And it's not because of Malik Neighbors' drop. I mean, you could look at it in hindsight, yes, it is. But he also went off the entire game. It was the only reason the Giants offense was able to move at times, move down the field. But man, it's just unfathomable. Hard to fathom. Being a fan of this team, you thought you were out of the woods in 2022. You really thought so. I did too. And look how far this organization has fallen. Right back to square one when you hired Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. I do believe that the foundation has been built, though. It just pains me to watch Brian Daboll get up to the podium and act like an absolute clown. That shouldn't fly. And there is going to be a lot of hate going around from Giants fans to Brian Daboll and to Joe Schoen by extension if the losing keeps up. And I think it's deserved. It's not their fault they were stuck with Daniel Jones. But in a game in which Daniel Jones doesn't make any mistakes, plays within himself, doesn't run into a million sacks, throws a couple touchdowns, you have to win that game. Or else, guess what? There won't be an easy person to blame among your roster, the players that play. It's going to be you. And considering what happened with the kicking situation, very easy blame. Lands on Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. Does not seem like things are going to change anytime soon. And I really didn't want to do this. Talked about the Knicks for the first 10 minutes. If you missed it, go back to the start. I know you're probably expecting that when you clicked on the link, if you got it at all. But it is something that I couldn't avoid talking about today because, man, I mean, it's going to sting. It stung really bad yesterday, and it's going to continue to sting for as long as the Giants are this bad. I mean, it's just an unacceptable loss. It really is. The Gano situation, the run defense, when is it going to end, guys? I don't know. But certainly more positive things to look forward to. That's why I talked about the Knicks today. I know it was, not huge news. Tom Thibodeau speaking on Julius Randle at the 5. Interesting to me, maybe interesting to you. If you missed it, you could go back after I finish this and scroll to the start, whether it be on YouTube or on X/Twitter, and listen to what I had to say. It was around like the first 10 minutes. Then I decided, you know what, I got to get into the Giants because it's really eating at me, and I gotta vent somehow. And if you missed one Giant step that came out Sunday night after the game, you could check that out. I believe the link is on Sean's post at Sean Morash. And also, if you want to watch it, it's on the WFAN YouTube. Just search One Giant Step. But until later on this week, when hopefully we can talk about something more positive regarding the Giants or the Yankees or whatever that may be, I'm Bryce Gelman. Thank you all for joining me today, and I will speak to you all very, very soon.